Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. Today we're going to take a look at all of the features and deliverables which had work finishing in the month of December. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much for the support, it is truly appreciated. And if you do enjoy my content, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. So each month, I like to put together a video that takes a look at all of the work that is kicking off each month, but also finishing each month, just to keep us all more informed as to what work is going on in the background. Now, before we get to it, just because a feature on the progress tracker has work beginning or completing in a particular month, does not necessarily mean it will be released that quarter, the next quarter, or even in that year, as there could still be more work required from other teams like the downstream teams, audio, visual effects, and so on. Or even priorities can shift and it can get pushed back until it is needed. It is, however, a good guide to see what could potentially come to the persistent universe when, but at the very least, it shows us what work is being done at what time in the year. So with that said, let us take a look at all of the work that came to an end in December according to the progress tracker. Now, kicking off with a couple of AI deliverables, the first one being untrained combat. Now, this is the first iteration for untrained combat, like civilians, being able to react to battle scenarios. So the AI will be able to use weapons to defend themselves in threatening situations and will try to preserve their lives using cover or surrendering when necessary. Now, this will be great for settlements, for example. When a settlement is attacked, the population could bear arms to defend themselves. Of course, not as competently as trained combatants, but still capable of putting up a fight. Not to mention any and all other situations where NPC civilians could come under attack. Now, this feature had 93 weeks work from the AI Tech and Features team and the mocap team. That should be done by now, and just like Fallout 4, I would happily go to the aid of an NPC settlement and help protect them. I think that would be a great mission. Now, the second AI deliverable is vehicle perception, which gives the AI the ability to both perceive and detect vehicles from the ground, as well as select ground-based targets when piloting their own, using both their vision and the radar. Now, what is interesting about this is that I believe it is somewhat implemented in 3.18, however it hasn't happened since, because when I was at one of these derelict outposts, a reinforcement cutlass came in and the turret shot me, or the pilot shot me, I'm not sure which one, while I was on foot making my way towards the derelict outpost. Now, they haven't done that again, even while I've been stood right in front of the cutlass, so it could be in testing still, but when they do become capable of shooting at you on the ground when you're on foot, it is going to be quite scary. Now, this next one, well, actually two of my favourite upcoming features that we got to see a glimpse of during the CitizenCon partnered development segment. The first one being EVA T2, and this improves the EVA experience, transitioning it to the Intelligent Flight Control System, which is what the ships use, or IFCS, which will mean that when you move in a particular direction, you will continue on in that direction until an opposing force is applied. Also, it introduces EVA fuel for the jets, and if you then run out of fuel, the jets are no longer functional, and thus encouraging the need to manage alternative movement options like push and pull and tractor beams. Now, whether when we get EVA Tier 2, they will split the armor up from the EVA jets, which I know is their intention, or whether that's coming later on, but after seeing how this looks at CitizenCon, it will make navigating in 0G much more fun and more realistic, as EVA right now is pretty painful, especially if you're exploring derelicts, and it does kind of discourage me to do those missions. But this feature had 5 teams working on it throughout its 86 weeks work, that finally came to an end in December. However, as we know, they are using Squadron 42 to prove it out first before rolling out to the PU. So once it's ready, it will be a very welcome addition, we just don't know when it's coming. And so, talking of 0G push and pull, that is the second feature here, which enables the player the ability to traverse surfaces in 0G by using their hands to push and pull themselves along a surface without needing to wear an EVA suit. Now, we will also be able to push off from the surface in any direction, and as mentioned in the previous feature, continue on in that direction until an opposing force is applied. But again, we saw this during CitizenCon, and it is coming along very well. And as I say, we'll make exploring wrecks, pulling ourselves through the dark corridors, just so much fun. So when it comes to EVA in general, once this is all implemented, choosing what method to use to navigate will be quite interesting. Do you use the EVA jets, provided you have them? which will have limited fuel? Do you tractor yourself along with a multi-tool tractor beam, which will have limited battery capacity, of which you might want to save for other uses? Or do you just rely on being able to pull yourself around using your hands? But then if you accidentally miss something, you could be drifting off. So some great thought-provoking changes and big improvements to the game mechanics. Now next up we have the Frontier style clothing, which is the style of outfits to be found within the Pyro system. Now we have seen a few of these concepts a while back. I don't think we've seen them properly in person yet, but I certainly expect them to be my go-to style of clothing. And likelihood is we won't see them until 4.0 is released with Pyro. Now for the star map, we have the AR and map marker system rework, which is basically reworking them into the building blocks. It does sound like this could be referring to potentially the iconography or the way that the information is displayed on the star map, but hopefully it also means that we can place markers on the new star map ourselves so that we can always return to the same position. Now this had 34 weeks work and should have finished at the beginning of December. And talking about the star map, this next one is one of the biggest deliverables that we need as soon as possible, and it is the map and radar system rework, which is an overhaul to the underlying systems and associated UI for the star map, the radar, the local area map, and a mini-map. So as we all know, the current star map is more of a burden than a benefit, and this update will change all of that, as well as include many new features and additions with the ability to add more as the game further develops. Now I know that they have mentioned a long while ago that the star map should be a system that holds all the information that you will need about any particular area, like the local weather, the crime rates, the population, trade, and so forth. Not to mention other aspects of being able to properly navigate and plot routes for the pilot to follow. And that is just the replacement of the star map. We will also be getting a local area map and minimap for when you're on foot, so a huge significance for the persistent universe, and probably one of the biggest quality of life improvements that we are in desperate need of. It did have 89 weeks work from 5 different teams, which appears to have come to an end mid-December. Of course, with the roadmap being updated in February, we will see if any more work is required, but it was mentioned by Chris Roberts in his latest letter that they do intend on rolling out the new star map this year. So here's hoping it's everything we want it to be, although if not, I'm sure they can iterate on it for the future. Now, one feature which was actually released with Alpha 3.16 is called Derelict Spaceships Points of Interest, which is referring to the Caterpillar wrecks that we are now seeing around the verse. Now, I do wonder if there is more to come for these with this work being done here, and whether it will expand the current wreck selection in an upcoming patch to offer more variety or gameplay, or even just expand the number of wrecks available. As for 3.18, we know that these points of interest, or the new Caterpillar wrecks, not the old ones, the new ones will have an enemy NPC presence. So I'm really interested to see if there is much more to come from this 91 weeks work that they had for this points of interest wreck, and hopefully if there is, we will see them in a future patch. Now the Ocean Shader improvements is next, which is reworking the Ocean Shader to use more physically accurate refraction and reflection with energy conservation, unifying the feature set with other water shaders, and balancing performance between orbital and close-up situations. So quite a big change there for the oceans, which they already look quite good, so this should make them look even better, while also introducing realistic reflection and refraction. Great for when we are exploring wrecks above and below the surface of an ocean, or maybe fishing, and any other water-based gameplay. So the next one is called Outpost Theme Variants, which says adding themed variants to the colonialism outposts, which will allow them to create different points of interest in the world. And the themes will range from abandoned, mining, research, and many more. Now this is going to be very exciting to watch come about, as there is a huge potential for options here and range, and we are already seeing white boxes for refinery outposts, as well as repair stations on the planetary surface, and recently a very sinister looking outlaw location with holding cells. And when it comes to abandoned locations, I can only imagine how eerie they will be. But having a large supply of locations that can be rolled out pretty quickly now, thanks to the Rastar tool, which is their current internal base building tool, I don't think it will be long until we see many more points of interest for all manner of missions and loot, and I suspect that this will actually roll out with every main patch released from here on out, maybe even 3.19. Now this work had 91 weeks work from the EU Sandbox 1 team, and as mentioned, the fruits of this will be seen very soon as it is only PU related. Okay, so this next deliverable is probably one of the most excited features that I'm looking for, and is what John Crew referred to as an apocalyptic change when it comes to ships. Now this is the physical damage and breakability, and the description of this states that it makes use of the physics engine to create a system that looks and behaves realistically when large objects such as ships are damaged by weaponry or colliding with other ships, locations or planets. And this is what will take ships from time to kill to time to disable, basically what soft death is doing now, but systemically rather than just faked for the time being. It also means when a ship or a player crash lands on a planet, it will realistically crumple and deform and create a genuine wreck to be explored or salvaged. And as Chris Roberts puts it a while back, you might survive a crash landing, you then go and gather some wood, make a fire, just to survive and await a rescue, and then later down the line, it could be weeks, months, years, someone else might come along to salvage your wreck, see the remnants of your fire and where you'd survived. The possibilities with this are just endless. Now, physical damage system will also drastically affect combat, encouraging you to fire accurately to do more damage to the parts of the ships that you want to. So, as John says, an apocalyptic change which I am itching to see roll out. Now the next deliverable is called Physics Rope Simulation, and this says extending the simulation algorithm of ropes to support ropes interacting with pulleys and improve general stability to enable the development of new gameplay mechanics. So basically seeing how the possibility of actual rope physics in the PU could provide more gameplay for traversal options. And this, I believe, was originally needed for Squadron 42 with a pulley system, but instead of faking it, they put some time into doing some research and development to find a way to do it realistically, which hopefully will have some benefits for the PU. And for me personally, I really hope that this could lead to some pretty exciting gameplay, especially in exploration, as we know that the pre-318 method for climbing was to mark up a flat edge of a wall with kind of like yellow lichen, which is also a method that CIG said is not great for the scale of Star Citizen. However, in 318, I have noticed in the sandy caves that yellow marker is gone, but the ledge-style grip option is still present. So we will see if the introduction of a realistic rope simulation can open up the potential for true exploration like abseiling and such, being able to scale locations provided that you have rope to do so. That would be very interesting, but we don't know exactly what this is going to involve, so we'll have to see what comes of this, but I am very intrigued to see its potential. And it had 49 weeks work from the physics team that finished in early December. Now the next feature is called Satellites Points of Interest, and says populating the game universe with explorable satellite locations that serve as points of interest for players. Now this one in particular sounds very intriguing, as these are more points of interest likely in space, unless they use the same tech for maybe wrecks and outposts to develop crashed versions, but in space they will likely incorporate in-use and derelict versions as new points of interest for missions to take players to. And if you are in space without gravity, combining this with EVA Tier 2 will be a hell of a lot of fun to explore. Now the potential for these satellite locations and the missions involved in them are huge and will add another additional point of interest along with all of the other locations. But these satellites had 34 weeks work for the Persistent Universe only from the location concept art team, so I'm not expecting them anytime soon, but it will be very exciting to see how they come to fruition. And now the next feature is the Volt Parallax, which is another weapon from the new manufacturer Volt, and this one is an energy-based assault rifle. It actually had 101 weeks work from narrative and the weapon content team, and that should be all of the Volt weapons now done, although the Volt Quartz had work way back in last year from the vehicle concept art team. Not sure what that means or why that team is working on them, but I do wonder if these weapons are intended to be found only in Pyro to begin with, and whether we will see them in Stanton anytime soon. Okay, so moving on to tech-specific deliverables. First up is the Entity Properties plugin, and this says improving entity property handling to easily adjust properties for multiple entities at the same time, decreasing iteration time for designers, and this is a major upgrade to the old way, which was pretty limited and hard to extend. So I'm not entirely certain what all of this means, but of course all of these tech improvements are a great step forward, and this had 50 weeks work from the editor team, which finished mid-December. The next piece of tech, which I am sure has been extended multiple times over the year, or over the years even, so it will be interesting to see if they are actually done now or not, is called FS Tech Anim Asset Integration. And this says game dev integration of .skin and .dna files with addition of LOD optimizations and fixes. Now again, I'm not entirely sure what this does. I'm assuming it's relating to the characters, maybe optimizing the level of details in terms of getting characters more performant friendly, but it did have 87 weeks work from the tech animation team, which as I say should be done now, but when the next roadmap update comes along in early Feb, we will see. And then the final tech feature is called Hex, which will increase the Hex tools feature set to enable player relations and developers to view and manipulate real-time data from all the microservices in the mesh. Now this had 103 weeks work from both the game services team and live tools team. Unlike the previous deliverable, I'm sure that this has been extended in the past a few times, but the work here shows that it was done towards the end of December. Now finally on to Squadron 42 specific deliverables. First up is all of the chapters barring 13 and 25, all showing work finishing at different intervals throughout December. Now with them all suddenly ending their work in December, chances are many of these will be extended into next year, as a few of them go all the way up to the end of December. So once February 8th comes around, we will see if these do get extended, and I am actually expecting them to. And the final deliverable that also goes all the way up to the very end of December, so again, likely more work required in 2023, but we just don't see it yet. This is called Character Work, which is the creation and implementation of various characters in Squadron 42, and this includes art, animation, and AI behaviors. Now this had 93 weeks work from 13 different teams, so a massive undertaking, which, as I say, chances are there is more to do. So there you go, that is all of the work and features that came to an end in the month of December. Quite a hefty amount of features in fact, and once February 8th is here, we will see lots of work get extended for many of the teams here, as well as a 319 column added. I cannot wait to see what is in 319, as I feel like it's going to be a pretty big update in terms of content, like a very content-rich update, plus many quality of life and bug fixes, as it gives them the opportunity to really work on improving and stabilizing the build before server meshing comes along, hopefully towards the end of the year. Of course, I will cover this update in great detail, so do keep your eyes out for that. But with that said, if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Also, come and follow me over at twitch.tv/supermacbrother. You are all more than welcome over there. We are having a great time and a hard time testing 3.18, but overall, it is a splendid patch. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a big thank you to my patrons and channel members. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.